Well, unless I'm mistaken, which I don't think I am, this is the very first Montgomery Ward sewing machine on any of my workbenches. So we're getting a lot of interesting milestones in 2019. We had the first Kenmore, now we're having the first Montgomery Ward sewing machine. And this particular machine is nothing different from the Kenmore when it comes to the model number. You got to take a big breath before you read it off. It's U as in uniform, H as in hotel, T as in Tom, J as in Juliet, 1273. So it's UHTJ1273. That's a mouthful. And this machine comes to me from a local lady who runs an embroidery shop in the great city of Oconto, Wisconsin. And this is her go-to machine, or it had been her go-to machine for sewing on patches and stuff that she can't do on her big embroidery machines. As a matter of fact, she's consented to, the next time she has a major project going, I'm going to be able to go in and actually film her operating these huge embroidery machines, which I think is way cool. And I think you'll find it very interesting as well. But I had stopped in to introduce myself to Kelly, and she mentioned the struggle with this Montgomery Ward, and so I brought it into the shop. And if you haven't looked at those Facebook shots yet, you should. It really covers a lot of the things that I did to the machine and really got it back sewing the way it's supposed to sew again. And underneath the presser foot right now are some of those sew-offs that I also posted on Facebook as well. But before I show you those Facebook pictures, let me real quick give you a little bit of history on this company. The Montgomery Ward and Company incorporated right around 1860, and the gentleman that did it was a young Chicago native, Aaron Montgomery Ward, who saw that he could undercut rural retailers by selling directly to farmers. That was really where his target market was, and he used mail order and delivery via the railroad to do that. And he initially tried to kick it off in 1871, but things didn't quite go so well because that was right in the same time period as the Great Chicago Fire, and it destroyed the majority of his inventory. So Ward and two of his partners sent out their first mailing not until the latter part of 1872. And this was the world's first general merchandise mail order catalog. That's pretty significant. So orders were kind of trickling in, but things weren't going so great. And his partners started to get kind of bummed out because of the slow pace of the business. So late in 1872, he got a break. An Illinois Grange, a farmers organization, named Ward its purchasing agent. And this gave Ward access to Grange mailing lists and meetings and greater credibility with farmers. And so he began subtitling Montgomery Ward price lists with the phrase "Original Grange Supply House." And as the business grew, Ward needed more capital and more help. And late in 1873, his brother-in-law, George Thorne, put $500 into the firm and became an equal partner. Can you imagine being able to just invest $500 and become an equal partner? The two men made an effective team, and while Ward had the inspiration for the business, George Thorne was a practical day-to-day manager. Finally, Montgomery Ward's primary customers were farmers, and they built a strong base there. And these farmers needed new industrial tools and farm equipment that wasn't as expensive as they would find in the cities. So that's really the niche that the Ward business started chiseling out. And in those earlier years, the best-selling product was what? The sewing machine. And just continue to build the business and build the business and build the business. And eventually they came out with a spring catalog around 1874. It was 32 pages long. And then eventually they expanded it to 100 pages. And the business just kept growing to a point where it actually topped $100,000 in the latter part of the 1800s, which was pretty big stuff. And as the business continued to go, it almost hit $500,000, and it just kept going up. Well, anyway, that's enough of a history. I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a thumbnail on the history, the proud history of this machine, and how it started with a gentleman that was trying to fill a niche and catering to our farmers. Very important folks in my neck of the woods. So this particular machine is pretty straightforward and simple. I'm going to kind of start down here. This little knob on the front is going to be to raise and lower the feed dogs. As we come up this machine here, right there, we're going to have a reverse button in the center, and then that white knob you can see is to control stitch length and also to do some preset buttonholes if you choose to do that. Right up here we've got two different knobs. The one on the right is going to be for needle alignment and also for some of those buttonhole settings, and then the one on the left is going to be for stitch width. That's it. This is just a real straightforward, simple machine. There is a cam spot on top, but it's not going to do anything in the way of decorative stitches. It's mainly going to give you that capacity to do that buttonhole. That's really its function. All right, so winding a bobbin. Well, first of all, it's got a traditional clutch release on the balance wheel, which you would disengage, and then you would obviously have to engage that silver rod sticking up that the bobbin goes over. Then you're going to be going across the top of the machine right over to here, where you can see that tensioner in the foreground, and then you're going to zip from there straight back to the bobbin. I have seen a couple of people that thread it through that tensioner and then through here, but I found that it really didn't feed very well. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would just recommend using the single tensioner and then coming straight back to your bobbin and winding it. And this is set up like most of them. This is an adjustable disengage right here that when that bobbin fills to a certain point, it's going to give you the ability to have it automatically disengage so that you don't overfill it. Threading the machine, really straightforward. There's our spool right there. We come across the back of the machine. We come through this thread guide right there. We then come across the top of the machine to that other thread guide that I said that I've seen some folks trying to use that to wind a bobbin. Do not recommend it. And then you're going to come down to your upper tension control. You're going to go through the discs, and you'll notice that that spring take-up is almost center mass on that tension control. And that's exactly as it should be. Normally you're going to see those tensioner springs like this on the upper tension being a lot further down to the left. It won't work on this machine. You've got to have that tensioner spring right where you see it there in line with that red line, almost center mass on that tensioner. So then after you, whoa, where did I go? After you come through there, you're going to then go through this little thread guide here, and then you're going to follow it straight up to the take-up arm. Take-up arm, there it is. You're going to then come straight back down. Now inside of this faceplate, which opens up, there's a single thread guide right about there. So you're going to want to make sure that that thread finds its way into that thread guide. Again, you can just open the faceplate and make sure that it goes through there before you continue down towards the needle. You have another thread guide right there, and then you're going to eventually come down to the needle, and you're going to thread this machine from front to back. Now, continuing right over here, you can see already some of these stitches that I sewed off camera. You've got a wide range of straight stitches, and then I continued over. You see that last row of straight stitches, we're pretty close to that 30 stitches per inch. And then I just have about 3 different style zigzags. One more of a wide one, and then I just reduced it down. But it really does a spectacular job. Now, Kelly's main concerns was, as I recall, tension, which I resolved, and then also motor power, and I also resolved that as well. So the machine is doing fine now. She'll be able to put it back to work in sewing patches on. So what I'm going to do on camera now is I'm going to sew a strip of leather. Nothing extensive because I know that Kelly wants to get this machine back, and it looks like it's going to rain, so I want to try to get this machine delivered before we get some more rain. I don't know about where you live, but we've had a lot of rain coming down in Wisconsin. A lot of areas flooding, and so it really has been quite a mess here. So I think folks are really hoping that spring eventually kicks in and they can be done at last with all of this wet weather. I know the farmers as well. Speaking of farmers, because again, the roots of Montgomery Ward with the gentleman that founded it, catering to farmers and such, they're having a lot of trouble getting their crops planted and some crops harvested as well. So, okay, so the first thing we're going to sew is just a good old-fashioned straight stitch. Nothing fancy. I'm going to go ahead and give us a long straight stitch on here, and then we'll probably do a zigzag or so coming down next to that as well. Okay, so here we go. This again is a Montgomery Ward Model UHTJ1273, and we'll see how this machine does on a single layer of leather. Here we go. I like the way it runs. It's doing a fabulous job now. Doing a fabulous job. All right, so let me give this a cut, and then we can zip down with some zigzags, and then finally I will show you these stitches. And then if we have time, we're going to jump to another workbench, and we're going to actually do a final confirmation sew off on the 301 that I introduced to you recently. That's going to be going to Oklahoma, and that also is a fabulous machine. Obviously, you've seen that one already. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change us from a straight stitch to a zigzag. I'm just going to check my camera shot real quick, make sure my camera hasn't done anything odd, as it oftentimes likes to. Okay, looks like we're okay. Okay, so now I'm going to, that dial on the upper left that you saw, I'm going to go ahead and adjust it from a 0 to a 5. And then I'm going to change our stitch length to a 6. And we'll go ahead and buzz down this vegetable tan leather, single layer, probably about 3 ounces, with a good old-fashioned zigzag. Here we go. Yeah, it's a good runner. I like it. All right, so I'm going to give this a clip as well. And then I'll make just a slight adjustment on that zigzag pattern. And that'll be our final sew-off on this machine before I get it back to Kelly. Again, we got some rain that looks like it's rolling in, and I don't want to get caught in the middle of that. All right, so our final stitch-off is also going to be a zigzag. Blah. And I'm going to see if I can make a slight adjustment on the stitch width. I'm going to bring it from a 5 to a 3, and I'm going to take our stitch length from a 6 all the way down to a 3. Again, when you're dealing with stitches that are in your machine, adjusting stitch length and stitch width, you can get totally different outcomes. It's really kind of fun. All right, so here we go. A modified zigzag with a stitch width of 3 and a stitch length of 3. Here we go. And I'm going to throttle it up just a little bit. Well, if I get my foot on there, I will. I actually started to shift my foot the wrong direction there. That's par for the course. So I'm going to clip these threads. You can kind of see those in the camera shot right there. This is our real tight zigzag. It almost looks like a mending stitch. And then below our standard zigzag, and on the bottom we've got our standard straight stitch. All really good looking stitches, and when I flip the material over, you're going to have a chance to see that lock-in stitch as well, which is also spectacular. Let me get this thread back in place, and I'll clip my other threads. Okay, and I'm going to see if I can kind of bring my light down because the lighting is not super. The lighting is better. I don't know if you saw it in the Facebook shots or not, if you've already been to the Facebook page. But the light in here was like a frosted white. It almost looked like a Christmas bulb. And it was really, really crummy as far as lighting that bed area in the needle. So I replaced it with another one, and it seems to be doing better. But I'm not hugely impressed with, there we go, that's even better. I'm not hugely impressed with the lighting system on this Montgomery Ward. I think that that's an area that they could have definitely improved on. And I'm going to put these other stitches kind of in front, and we can look at those again for a final time before we move over to the other workbench. Okay. All right, so you can actually see those better than I thought you could. So the bottom stitch is the first one that we did, obviously. It's a standard straight stitch. And I think that this Montgomery Ward did a phenomenal job. We're actually kind of able to look at 2 stitch rows at the same time. You can see that zigzag just above it. Looking really good. And then again, remember we modified the stitch width and we generated this modified zigzag, which is also spectacular. I particularly like that color thread against that color vegetable tan leather, that the shade of that. So looking really good. I'm going to go to the end of this and come out a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and flip this over so you can look at that lock stitch. So also there we've got some, I'm going to come out just a little bit more. Also there we've got some really good looking lock stitches as well on all 3 of those rows. And I just wanted to do this real quick just to show you that, you know, while it's not what I would describe as a stand up and cheer type machine, it is a Japanese made machine, which I failed to mention up to this point, and I don't have any of my Japanese music playing, which you probably have grown a little bit weary of. But Montgomery Ward at this stage in their production, like a lot of the companies, either move their production over to Japan, or as a result again of our post-World War II generosity in giving the Japanese those plans and designs, they were able to manufacture this machine over there. Montgomery Ward, kind of like I recently presented that Kenmore, the 158.16410, and some companies just don't do a fabulous job of maintaining records, and Montgomery Ward and Kenmore are kind of in that same boat. I did find a summary archive, but there's so many blanks in it that it really kind of leaves you scratching your head and wondering, even with that 164.10 that I just introduced, that I'm offering from my personal collection for sale. I know there's some controversy and debate even about how I dated that machine, but again, the archives have a lot of gap points, so there's really some discretion, I think, when it comes to trying to set those dates. Almost like with the Husqvarna Viking machines, you have to use some discretion and insight in trying to choose those as well. So again, this Japanese Montgomery Ward, I think is ready to get back to work for Kelly. I think all in all, it's a decent machine. As you saw in the Facebook shots, well, maybe you didn't. So why don't we go there next real quick? Assuming my computer, it went into a power save. There we go. So this is the post I just put up on Facebook. And those of you, again, on YouTube that are not Facebookers, you can see I basically just wrote up here, Kelly uses her Montgomery Ward model, and then I state the model number with her local embroidery business, and has been struggling with the tension and power. Not anymore. And then what I do is I on Facebook, I posted 40 pictures that kind of walk you through the different steps that I took this machine through. So this is just kind of an opening shot. Let me see if I can get that open, then I'll line the camera up so you can, those of you on YouTube that don't do Facebook, you'll have an opportunity hopefully to see those pictures. So there's our first shot. I'm just going to check my camera alignment. Yeah, spot on, good. There's our first shot, just kind of a front view of the machine. And then you get a closer look at the controls there for stitch length, reverse, and also needle alignment, and also your feed dog drop there on the bottom. Here, it's just a rear shot of the machine. I'm going to kind of get low and so I can tap the computer as we go. This machine, if I failed to mention it, I believe I did fail to mention it, it has a 1 amp motor. So nothing meager about the power on this machine. Once I restored it, it's doing a fine job now. There's a front view. Again, that faceplate opens, and again, when you're threading this machine, there is a thread guide inside of the faceplate molded to the body, so you're going to want to be real careful that you thread it through there, otherwise you're going to have some issues. So here we've got me removing the top of the machine cover, and there again is the access point for cams. Here we're looking at the inside of the faceplate. The mechanics are pretty good. I wouldn't say they're as ruggedly engineered as the Kenmore, but they're decent. There's our main drive shaft. Lots of oiling points in this machine that I had to take care of. They were quite dry, and you know, it seems like the machines that I get are one or the other. They either are drowning in oil or they're dry, so it'd be great to find the middle ground. And you can see our machine is driven by a belt. It's got a standard cog type belt. It does a decent job because that inside of that balance wheel there is not smooth. It's cogged in and matches with the belt, so you get some good direct drive force when you're launching. There I've got the machine leaning back, and you can begin to see the bottom of the machine. And there we're in the area of the raceway. Lots of dirt, lots of junk. If you hopefully can see that in the picture. It was a real dirty machine. Spent a lot of time getting it back in a condition where there was more metal and less dirt. Alright, here we've got a little bit of an issue. This is the main drive shaft on the bottom of the machine, and we actually have a crack through this plastic housing. Again, whenever you replace metal with plastic, there is that tendency to have cracks begin to develop, and there's no exception here. Also, there was a real funky old caramelized type grease on this machine in a variety of different places, and it really wasn't doing any good. It didn't have any lubrication properties left whatsoever. So there's more of a distant shot at the bottom of the machine. You can see that cracked piece again. Here we're looking at the right side bottom of the machine, just again some of the mechanics and some of the lubrication points, to include this one right here. These are often commonly missed by machine owners. And here we've got a casing compartment right below the raceway that is a critical piece of the engineering of the machine. And as you'll see, it's got some really nasty old grease in there, that is basically just seizing up that primary worm gear right here that drives all the activity in the raceway. So I had to get all that cleaned up. You can see it there again. It's just caked on, and it really isn't providing any lubrication benefits to the machine at all. Just more of it. You can especially see here, this has been on there even longer. It's actually discoloring. Kind of looks like old cheese almost, doesn't it? There's more of a distant shot. You can just kind of see the locale of that. The main shaft that we saw coming across the bottom feeds into there. So this is really a critical part of the engineering of the machine, and it really should be running in an optimal way. And as it's lubricated now and the old grease and everything, it just isn't. So we fix that. We get all that nasty stuff out of there. You can see it's all gone. and we've got brand new fresh grease in there. Again, just some of the engineering on the bottom of the machine. Here we're beginning to put it back together. We've got that case cover back on, and we're just showing again that the machine is nice and clean. It's properly lubricated, and any of that caramelized oil, we're in the process of removing it. There's some more, and this is a pivot joint as well, so any of that stuff that's kind of gunking up in there is going to inhibit how freely the machine can move. And whenever you inhibit a machine in movement, whether it's crud or lack of lubrication, you're going to reduce your power and your performance dramatically. So here we're just getting some of that old oil off. We still have that crack over here. In the shots to follow, you're going to see that I begin to go through the process of trying to repair that. But right now we're cleaning out the raceway area. We've removed one of the hooks and the retaining plate, and we're getting that area nice and clean. Here we're excuse me. Here we're starting to go through the process excuse me, of repairing that plastic casing that's on that drive shaft that goes into the raceway, and we're filling it with a oil resistant epoxy. You'll also notice that we removed that set screw. If you ever have a repair like this to perform, you can take that screw out, but do not touch that balance wheel when you're repairing it, or you'll totally throw your machine timing off. So you're going to have to do your repair, get that screw back in, and then you can turn your balance wheel, but not before. So here again, we've just about completed our repair. We've done that side, we're finishing this side, and that machine will now be good to go. We're just beginning to put that retaining screw back in. Here's our tension control part of the concern. Off camera and off video, I did go through a detailed deep cleaning of that, and found that it was really pretty caked up and dirty, and that explains part of the performance issues with it. Here I'm using an old style brush to clean out around the top of the feed dogs. Again, just some more detailed cleaning, some more oiling in the area of the faceplate. Here, your eyes are not blurry. Here I've spun up the raceway after reassembling and lubricating it, and I'm just checking to see if the motion and the movement of the machine is more free, and it absolutely was. A huge difference. Huge difference. Just some more lubrication. Here's our primary nomenclature plate, and it gives a lot of the critical data, the model number, the serial number, and the strength of the motor, and then just some other nomenclature information. Again, you can enlarge this on Facebook if you want to look at it closer. Here I just got done doing my sew-offs, and you've seen those in this video as well, and I'm very pleased with how those turned out. All right, so that's it on Kelly's Montgomery Ward. What I'm going to try to do now, if I'm able, is I'm probably going to have to move my camera just slightly, and I'm going to try to set it so I can get a shot over by this 301 that is going to be shipped very shortly to Oklahoma. So here we've got that 301. I'm going to get over by the needle. Actually, I probably could zoom in a little bit closer. There we go. And again, on this machine, if you follow me at all, I'll kind of come out just a hair. I already posted a video on YouTube and also detailed pictures on Facebook. Did a single layer of nylon webbing. Again, this stuff has a tensile strength of 2,000 pounds. Then I did 2 layers of commercial grade vinyl. And as you can see, a spectacular stitch out of this 301. Then I did 2 layers of genuine cowhide. Again, if you can see that stitch, it's just spot on. And I also did a single layer of genuine cowhide. It just kind of did a little buzz around, and the machine did, just a fabulous job. It really did. So the last thing I thought I would do before this machine heads out the door is I thought I would do a little bit of vegetable tan leather, because I had not done vegetable tan leather. So I'm going to try to get that underneath the presser foot, get that presser foot down, and then I've got to try to get myself seated over by this machine. I'm just going to check my camera shot again, so I'm going to have to come in a little bit. Looks like we're kind of far out. There we go. Okay, and so we're going to be doing 2 layers of vegetable tan leather with this 301. And I should mention specifically a shout out to my friend Doug Redden, who is from the great state of Oklahoma. And I'm going to say the name of his city wrong, so I'm not even going to try to say it. It's something like Aluga, Oklahoma is where Doug and his family live. And that's where this 301 is going to be living very shortly. Again, I promised I would try to ship this by Saturday and get this heading towards him. Okay, so we're going to be going down these 2 layers of vegetable tan leather, and let's see how this 301 does with a task like this. I've got to try to get this foot control lined up with my big old foot. Again, the 301 comes with the same foot control as the featherweight, so it's got that Bakelite, and it is a little bit of a booger if you got big feet like me to try to get that thing, to try to get your foot on that thing. So, all right, so I got the presser foot down, my take-up arm is at the highest position, and let's see how this machine does, Doug's machine, on 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. Here we go. I had to do a little bit of speeding up. I've been so good today. You know what I mean? All right, so let me give this a clip. And you'll notice as well, and this is kind of what I told Doug when he and I talked over the phone as we were discussing the possibilities of him purchasing this machine, is I said, you're going to love the way this machine launches. It doesn't act all sluggish and sick like some machines do. It just gets out there and gets her done. And you can see there we've got that top stitch, and it is absolutely spot on. I've got to kind of come a different way with it as well so you can kind of see it. It's a little bit harder to see with this lighter thread on this lighter vegetable tan leather, but it's absolutely spot on. And again, if you look at that, we're talking 2 layers of vegetable tan leather. This stuff is the thick of thick, and it's not easy at all to try to get through this stuff. And our lock stitch as well, I've got to really pull it back, but it did a fabulous job on this 2 layers of vegetable tan leather, just as it did with these 2 layers of genuine cowhide, these 2 layers of commercial grade vinyl, this single layer of nylon webbing that's used to tow cars, and then finally this single layer of genuine cowhide. This Singer 301 is ready to get the job done, and I know that Doug is going to have a blast with this in Oklahoma. So Doug, I'm going to be getting this in the mail real soon to you. Hope you really enjoy this fabulous big sister to the featherweight, because it is a great machine. So, all right, folks, well, you stay tuned for some other great videos like this. And I should also mention as well, matter of fact, I will pull myself quickly into the shot because I may be running out of space or battery power or something else in between. We are now quickly approaching, I got to spin my screen around. We are quickly approaching 5,200 subscribers. So we have far surpassed the milestone of 5,000, and I'm going to be doing a contest that will involve music. And so I'm going to call upon my good friend from Kissimmee, Florida, Bill O'Rourke, to be involved with me on that contest as I play different music pieces using a really cool music box that I recently acquired, and I'll be playing several different songs. And the individuals that want to jump into that contest will have to identify the song, post it, and then eventually at the end write a little blurb about which is their favorite song and why. And then it'll be up to Bill and myself. In the past, I've called a flood of people in, invited those posters to have all their friends and everybody like it. This time we're going to do a little bit different. This time I'm going to use Bill O'Rourke as a guest judge and myself, and kind of lean on Bill because of his incredible music background. And then he and I will pick the final winner based on, number one, them naming the selections in the proper order, the correct music titles, and then their little piece that they wrote about which one is their favorite and why. So kind of keep an eye open for that. It'll be a lot of fun. I love music. I know a lot of you do as well. And I certainly know Bill does. So it'll be fun to involve him in this contest. And Bill, if I didn't mention that to you yet, I'm mentioning it to you now. So congratulations. All right. So stay tuned for more great videos like this. God bless you guys. And keep on watching. A lot of great videos to follow. All right. And goodbye to this great 301 that's heading to Oklahoma. I'll really miss this machine. It's been in my personal collection for quite some time, and it's a fabulous machine, as is that Kenmore as well, that I'm offering for sale right now. And again, the other machine, the Singer 15125, and also this 301 are sold. So things kind of move quick around here. So if you see a machine, go up on the Facebook page or on YouTube for sale and you're really interested in it, don't delay or you might miss out. All right? Take care.